Welcome back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore womanhood, leadership, and the messy, meaningful moments that shape who we are. Today's guest is Athena Brownson, a former professional skier turned thriving entrepreneur whose story is a masterclass in resilience and reinvention. After enduring 9 knee surgeries, 2 neck operations, and a diagnosis of chronic Lyme disease that left her bedridden, Athena could have let those setbacks define her, but instead, she chose purpose. In this conversation, Athena opens up about the emotional journey of navigating physical pain, losing a sense of identity, and rebuilding a life filled with meaning, passion, and impact. She shares not only how she got through it, but how she grew through it. Her joy, grit, and vulnerability shine through, and I have no doubt you'll leave this episode feeling both inspired and empowered. Enjoy the listen. Here you go. Oh, Athena, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. I'm so excited that we're going to have this conversation.
I could not be more excited to be here. I have become absolutely addicted to your podcast, and it's an absolute honor to be here. So thank you for
Oh,
having me.
yeah, and my pleasure for sure. So let's start. If you would introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners and tell them about your background, which is just
Yeah,
incredible.
it's extensive for sure. And I like to say, cats have 9 lives and I have dogs. So unfortunately, I don't know if those 9 lives apply, but it feels like it. I currently live in Denver, Colorado. I'm a rare Colorado native. There are not many of us, to say the least, but I grew up in a small mountain community about an hour and a half west named Breckenridge. If you ski or snowboard, you've probably heard of Breckenridge.
Mhm.
Amazing mountain. But I grew up with a father who was a real estate developer and a professional skier, and a mother who is an extremely talented artist and interior designer. So
Mhm.
I grew up watching their combination of skills create beautiful residences throughout Breckenridge. So I
Mhm.
kind of grew up in the world of real estate, and now I'm a realtor. And I really never pictured myself saying that. I always had a very bad kind of depiction of realtors as this used car salesman, if
Yeah.
to be completely honest. and
Yeah.
and I also really attached it to being very cold on my dad's job sites and wanting nothing to do with it. But
Yeah.
when it came to skiing, that was my passion.
Mhm.
I put every part of me into the world of skiing from a very, very young age. And I
Mhm.
ended up going pro at age 15. So by 15, I was definitely following in my father's footsteps, but it gave me the opportunity to travel the world. I skied about 300 days a year, which looking back, I can't even comprehend, but it was
Mhm.
what I loved. And I had the most incredible coaches. And I really believe that skiing was the best business school and the best, really life training that I ever could have asked for,
Mhm.
because it teaches you that not everything is always going to go to plan.
Yeah.
And life truly never, I think anytime, there's that corny saying that anytime you tell the universe or God what your plan is, they laugh. And I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
couldn't find that to be the case more so.
Mhm.
But skiing taught me a combination of learning resilience, learning grit, learning the power of hard work,
Yeah.
and the idea that you really however much you put into something, you'll get out. So when I finished skiing, and this is 9 knee surgeries, 2 neck surgeries, a couple wrists later, so I'd gone through my fair share of injuries. I decided to finish college and I went into the world of interior design. And I thought that was going to be, my absolute passion. And I quickly realized that coming from athletics, I needed to be an entrepreneur. I needed to find something where I had the ability to, again, however much I put in, the output would reflect that. And it wasn't simply, clocking in from 9 to 5, working for someone else. I really needed to find something that I was passionate about, that I loved, and that I was able to really give my all to as a young professional. And
Mhm.
I never in a million years would have thought that would be real estate. And a girlfriend of mine, we were sitting at dinner and she said, Athena, what are you doing? You love people, you love building relationships, you love homes and design, you grew up in it. Like, why don't you just talk to the owner of my company and see what you think about real estate after that? See if you
Yeah.
still have this horrible misconception. And I agreed, a little bit grudgingly. And honestly, 2 days later, I sat down to lunch with my soon to be mentor at the time. This was a decade ago. And he is truly one of those people that walks into a room and just lights it up because of
Mm,
his positive energy. And I
mm,
think it's rare that we are able to find those people, especially in the world of business.
yeah.
it can be very transactional, and I know your background in marketing and corporate America. It can be very, very
Mm.
challenging, and that's not what I was looking for. But when I sat down with John, who's still a great mentor of mine today, he made me realize that real estate was not just a transaction, it
Mm,
was the ability to build relationship with people for a lifetime and to be a
mm,
part of the most pivotal, you know, sale or purchase in their life. I mean, you
mhm.
don't really buy something greater than your home.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
quickly fell in love with the idea. I quit my job the next day. I put in my notice, and I wouldn't change a minute of the real of interior design, excuse me, because it taught me so much about real estate and gave
Yeah.
me a completely different toolkit. Um, so when I got started in real estate, it was kind of a dream come true. I was shadowing under, human sunshine, so to speak, following every move he made. And when I finally really got my feet under me, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Jeez.
So it really, when you say life doesn't necessarily go to plan, that was not part of my plan.
Right.
And I looked at my doctor and I said, I've never even seen a tick. There's no way. Like, this must be
Yeah.
wrong. And he was like, Athena, like, your life's about to change, unfortunately. And this is a reality and you need to take it very seriously. And I couldn't
Mm,
even comprehend what I was being told because it was so foreign to me coming from, being an athlete where I had extreme control over my physical body, and
yeah.
where I really was able to, get myself in the best shape possible and feel the best I possibly could. And, once again, I was able to work really hard. And as a result, my body would do well.
Mhm.
Well, I went from being, at the top of my game in real estate and still very much so an athlete, to very quickly not being able to get out of bed.
Wow.
Lyme disease
Oh.
is brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my journey since then has been one that we will continue to explore, but
Yeah.
that's a little background for you.
Well, you mentioned it. You said something about, we have an expectation of a perfect life,
Yes.
and you had a lot of curveballs thrown at you, a lot of
Yeah,
different ways.
I did, and you know what? I don't even think that it phased me very much as a young woman. And I believe that was because my coaches and my peers kind of taught me that, getting injured was a part of the sport. If I was going to be a professional skier, unfortunately, I was most likely going to get hurt at some point. And I skied very, very hard. But with that, you know, things not always going to plan. Of course, it was never my plan to overshoot a jump and blow a knee or
Mhm.
undershoot a jump and blow a knee. But it was part of the sport, and I knew that if I did A, B, C, and D, that I would recover and that I would get better.
Yeah.
So I did still have some semblance of control within the curveballs that I was set. Now,
Yeah.
with chronic illness, there's no such thing as if you do A, B, C, and D, you're gonna get better because it's so different for everyone. And Lyme in particular attacks whatever you're genetically predisposed to. So it
Mhm.
looks very different in a variety of people. And because of that, it's extremely hard to treat. I mean, I'm 7.5 years in now, and we're still trying new therapies all the time. I
Mhm.
just got back from Arizona trying a new therapy, and when you lose your health, every single part of your day becomes a challenge.
Mhm.
So just, the simple act of waking up and getting out of bed and then getting yourself to the shower and getting yourself ready for work. And unfortunately, most people go on disability when they get this diagnosis because your body really does feel so horrible all the time that
Mhm.
if you
Mhm.
don't have something that you are absolutely in love with and something that you're extremely passionate about,
Yeah.
which for me, luckily, is real estate, which is hilarious because my view made a complete 180. But that's what has kept me getting out of bed every day. And I think
Mhm.
that's, at least for me, the best way that I have found that we can approach life when life doesn't go to plan.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like though you're got your, feet on the ground and that you are kind of living a perfect life. And it's not perfect, but you're
I'm
taking
making the
it.
best of it.
You are. I mean, your energy and your joy comes through
Thank
and
you.
definitely can see that. And you know, you mentioned a little bit about resilience, but
Yeah.
what do you think for people like you and for all of us really, resilience is about?
Resilience, I always go back and forth between, is real resilience something that you are innately born with, or is resilience something that can be learned? And I think it's a combination of the two, but more so, I do believe you can teach yourself resilience by really taking adversity head on. And when you say, I do well with the circumstances that I'm in at the moment, it's taken a very long journey to get to this place.
Mhm.
I've had years of being extremely angry and sad and just mourning the life that I
Mhm.
once had and not necessarily acknowledging that what I was going through was actually teaching me who I was as a person deep down. And I truly believe that resilience comes when we're able to go through something difficult,
Uh-huh.
take that period of mourning, but not get stuck in the mud. And in order to do that, we have to build a toolkit of what are our go-tos for when it's feels impossible to get out of bed in the morning. What
Mhm.
are our go-tos for trying to psych yourself up for a meeting when you feel absolutely horrible? And I
Mhm.
believe that finding the your go-tos, finding you have to dig so deep within. I believe that's teaching yourself resilience. And it's teaching a grit that unfortunately I don't believe we're able to learn until we're put in situations where we have
Mm,
to.
mm,
And at that point, we're faced with the options of completely, being overcome by depression and kind of getting stuck in the mud,
yeah.
or pivoting and realizing that, okay, this is my reality right now,
Mm,
and the best thing that I can do is figure out how I personally can get through this. And I
mhm.
think that journey of personal growth and development is is what teaches you resilience, and they're teaching you life skills that, you know, I use these tools not just to, get through chronic illness and get through each day, but when I'm dealing with a difficult real estate transaction, when I have relational issues, whatever it may be, resilience is something that will pop up in every aspect of our lives.
Mhm.
And to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge that you don't look back on the easy times in your life and say, I grew so much as a person during,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
easy parts. It's when things are difficult that you learn and you grow, and that's through resilience.
yeah. So what emotions do you think are underneath that? Um,
That's a
there
great
must
question.
it must be like you transition from fear to maybe something around hope.
I
I
think
bet you
anger first.
anger. Okay.
Honestly,
Anger. Anger, then
especially
fear, then
uh, I'm like, when I think there is a little bit. I think fear, you're right. Fear is first, because when you are told that you have an illness, or, you're broken up with, or whatever it may
yeah,
be,
right.
there's this moment of like, what does this mean for my life? Like, am I going to have to quit my job? Am I going to lose everything? Like, how am I
Mhm.
going to go? How am I going to keep going? So there is that moment of fear. But then unfortunately, I think you have to go through a series of emotion,
Yeah,
which involves anger and mourning,
yeah.
and really, I think that's what helps you come to terms with the reality that is currently your life, and you don't have, you don't like it, and it's very upsetting, and it's, going from being at the top of your game and the top of the world, it may seem,
Mhm.
to very quickly losing, like, autonomy over how you use your body and how you're able to, conduct your life and your social life, and you mourn the person that you are having to leave behind.
Mm,
But it's within that period of mourning that I think we have to make the conscious decision and pivot to, how is this forming me into the person that I
mhm.
am supposed to be? And that's where hope arises, because it creates almost a light at the end of the
Yeah,
tunnel. Like, that I'm learning things about myself that I wouldn't learn any other way. So how am I going to use what I'm learning
yeah,
to make me a better person at the end of this?
yeah. Sometimes I feel though I like telling the universe, okay,
Yeah.
I've had quite enough on this learning journey.
I'm with you.
Can you ease up a bit?
Like, sometimes, I'll have a couple of weeks, and like, my life, I do 4 plasma transfusions a month.
Oh,
I probably see 6 doctors a month. I the amount that I have to amount of time I have to spend just trying to stay in a place where I'm functional
yeah.
is so absurd, that when other items pop up, like, when a deal's not going well, or maybe I go through a breakup, my nervous system is already at its, maxed out. I'm
Yeah,
already in fight or flight mode.
yeah.
I'm just simply trying to survive. And then you put something else on top of it, and I'm like, Are you okay, universe, like what is it that you're trying to teach me right now? Because I am
Yeah,
pretty burnt out by it all.
I know.
So I'm with you completely.
Yeah, like, I can definitely say
Mhm.
to the universe, "Can you give her a break? Because I think she's
Thank
got
you.
quite a bit."
I would love a break, but you know what? What doesn't as
Yeah,
corny as it is, like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
stronger. Yeah,
One of my favorite song lyrics is
yeah,
also whatever doesn't kill you is gonna leave a scar. And
yeah,
and that's very true in so
yeah,
many different ways.
yeah,
But life doesn't go to plan, and unfortunately nothing's ever gonna be perfect.
yeah,
And I think if we can approach these difficulties, this adversity really head on with a
yeah,
sense of you know, confidence almost, because you don't want to be, it doesn't come naturally to feel confident when you're going up against something extremely difficult. But if you can dig
yeah,
within and find that confidence to battle something head on, it's gonna at least make it easier. At the
right.
very least, mentally, it will help.
I think you have a connection too to confidence and self-doubt.
Yeah,
And I know when we talked before, you mentioned that there's, you know, a, you found a way to move from that self-doubt because I think that is what holds us back. It's some kind of belief that we've got right then and there about,
absolutely.
I can't handle this, or this is too big for me, or whatever the belief is. But then, did you find that by questioning that
You
you could
know,
almost move to confidence?
I actually think that I found that through skiing, and
Okay.
I'll explain that. So when, I would be at the top of a run getting ready for X Games, say, which is, the biggest competition aside of the Olympics in my sport. And you've got this anxious energy running through you. And what I learned, what my coaches taught me at this time, which I never realized would be something that would serve me so well in the future, is that whenever you have that anxious feeling of self-doubt and, can I do this? I'm scared to try this trick or whatever it may be. They taught me a practice that's almost meditative, but I would sit at the top of the run and I would visualize myself landing every single trick. And then I would remind myself that what I was feeling was not fear and anxious energy, it was excitement and it
Mhm.
was confidence and it was my body just getting me ready for what lay ahead. And that act of visualization and the act of seeing yourself really stomping the landing of whatever it is in life that you're trying to accomplish. I'm a firm believer that that act of visualization will transform your mindset from having limiting beliefs of self-doubt
Mhm.
to pivoting that belief into confidence, into I can do this. I just saw myself do this. I know that I'm capable of this. And I always knew in skiing, if I could land a trick in my head, if I could visualize myself landing something, that I could do it in real life. I had absolutely no doubt because in skiing, you really don't get an opportunity to try things when you're not on snow. So
Yeah.
you really have to just put yourself out there and go for it. And there's no room for self-doubt in that. So I'm a firm believer in writing out your affirmations and spending time doing visualization and meditating and writing out your goals in the present tense. Like these are all practices that are part of my toolkit that help me get through challenging times, challenging days. And I really believe that it's a mental shift that all of us have the ability to do. It's simply an awareness aspect, being aware that you have the ability to transform that belief.
Yeah. God, that's good.
I mean, it's something I use to this day, whether it's just visualizing myself getting through a really difficult medical treatment or visualizing myself landing one of the biggest listings of my career or coming
Yeah.
up against a really big issue that's occurring in a real estate transaction and spending some time visualizing everything working out. And I think that the power of the mind and just the ability that we have to create new neural pathways
Mhm.
that help get rid of those limiting beliefs that we've
Yeah.
kind of programmed into ourselves. Like if physiologically we have the ability to rewire our own brains, but it takes conscious effort and repetitive work.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, my darling, we could talk forever.
I would love to.
Um, I know we talked quite a bit about emotions, but are there any other insights that you want to leave with our listeners and viewers
Yeah.
today?
I mean, honestly, when I look back I think a lot about what I would tell myself as a young girl, whether that's in my, early teens or 20s. I think a lot about how I would prepare myself for what was to come. And in doing so, I think it relates really well to anyone because the reality of life is that we're all going to face very unexpected adversities, and that could be the loss of a loved one or a divorce or losing a job. I mean, the list goes on, and I think there's more tension in the world than ever right now. And I think the biggest thing that I would have told myself that I would relay to others is that life is not always going to go to plan, and there are going to be very difficult things that come up in our lives, but we are the driver of the car. We have the ability to take these difficult moments in our lives and transform them into the things that make us a better version of ourselves.
Mm.
And it's really difficult to think that way when you're in the midst of it. But if you can figure out a practice, whether it's creating an evening routine or a morning routine, if you can if create your toolkit for resilience and realize that nothing is permanent, like, even the illness, the way you handle it will evolve and you will eventually find ways to get relief and no matter how painful things feel either physically or emotionally or mentally, there is always a light on the other side, and the more that you focus on that light and focus on the transformational abilities of adversity, the greater you're going to come out the other side
Mhm.
at saying I'm proud of the person that I am and that I showed up as. And that
Mm.
doesn't mean that you can't mourn, the loss of whatever it is in your life that you're going through, I think going through all of the emotions of sadness and loss is important because we can't lie to our nervous systems. Like they know when something is wrong. So
Definitely.
don't lie. Give yourself that space and then give yourself the grace as well to find your footing and understand that there's no right way of getting through anything. It's going to be trial and error, and you have to give yourself grace for that. But if you can acknowledge that no matter how hard things are, I'm going to come out the other side a better me, and it's going to serve me for the rest of my life. We'll all get a lot farther in life and love ourselves a lot better.
One thing I see about you is that you have a curiosity about learning
I do.
and that you automatically go to what can I learn here? Or what is the universe trying to teach me? Or what does this say that I need to do? It's all I think that's also helps us to keep reinventing ourselves because you
Yeah.
definitely have reinvented yourself.
Thank you. And you're completely right. And I think, with the access to information that we have today and the access we have to being able to connect with others that are going through something similar, the opportunity for learning is endless.
Mm,
And it's so easy to just kind of succumb to your circumstances. But the more that you can continue digging and continue learning about yourself. And I don't, I think we learn really well by learning through others' stories. So a lot of
mhm,
times we don't even recognize certain things about ourselves until we're reading a book about, about someone that went through something similar, or just a self-development book. It's not until we're doing that digging and trying to find connection that we realize that we have the same power within ourselves, and that we
mhm.
have the ability to transform ourselves. And it really is a process of transformation and reinventing, because it has taken, years and years of different showing up in different ways and falling on my face and realizing that that wasn't the way that I wanted to approach something, or that wasn't the way I wanted to show up in the world. But
Mhm.
that's again where grace comes in. It's understanding that if you continue to learn and you're continuing to try, even if you're not getting it right, you're still not stagnant. And
Yeah.
you have to give yourself grace for not necessarily getting it right the first time, but understanding that that's part of your growth journey. And we
Mm.
really have no excuse anymore to not, learn as much as we can. I mean, you can listen to podcasts like this,
Yeah.
you can have Audible on in the car. There's so much access to information that
Yeah.
no matter what you're going through, you can find something to relate to.
Well, I definitely think you've hit the hearts of our listeners
I hope
today.
so.
I think so, and inspired them. And I think they'll see themselves in you too and see,
So that's
their
my goal.
own power and their own resilience. So thank you, Athena, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and you were just lovely.
Oh, it was my pleasure. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening today. If Athena's story resonated with you or reminded you of your own resilience, I'd love it if you'd leave a review wherever you're listening. It really helps more people find the podcast. And of course, share this episode with a friend who might need a little spark of hope right now. You can always join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or head over to our website at girltaketheleadpod.com to catch up on some episodes, shop our store, or sign up dates. We're also on YouTube Music, which, if you just get on YouTube, search at Girl Take the Lead and hit the subscribe button, we'd appreciate it. You can see a full video there, and you can also see one on Spotify. So, a few of my favorite quotes from Athena were: Lyme disease was not part of my plan. You can teach yourself resilience. And how about hope arises when we ask, how is this transforming me into the person I was meant to be? And here are three big takeaways from today. One, passion is what pulls us forward when everything else feels lost. Two, resilience isn't just innate, it's something we can build over time. And three, hope doesn't come first, but it does arrive when we're willing to face what is and ask what's possible. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, my guest is Kayla Logue, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and founder of the nonprofit Moving Into Words. dedicated to supporting sustainable mental and physical health for young professionals. Kayla is also a multi-unit franchise owner of Jet Set Pilates, where she empowers others to take control of their health, mindset, and careers. With a passion for personal growth and resilience, she helps people turn challenges into opportunities and redefine success on their own terms. We had a great conversation about her book, Always Squeezing Lemons. In it, Kayla shares her raw and inspiring story of overcoming adversity through radical self-accountability. You won't want to miss this powerful conversation. Until then, take care, lead with heart, and remember you've got this. Talk to you soon. Bye.